This is part 2 of our chicken tractor build. If you haven't seen part 1, you definitely want to see it, so stick around to the end and you'll see it in the end screen. Okay, so there are really only a few things left to get done on this build. And then it comes down to a test drive, and then Michelle and William getting the birds put in there midday and getting them out on pasture. Let's see how it goes. Okay, this was the area I was most concerned with. I mean, this is a 16-inch door and we cut it down to 11 inches. And 11 is about as tight as you're possibly going to get when that thing is a 2-foot high structure. So at first I was a little concerned, and I'm thinking, okay, are these birds going to want to go in and out this door? Just about everybody out there recommends that you have no less than 12 inches. Well, we're not housing pterodactyls. I mean, these are chickens, for crying out loud, and I've seen them getting some pretty tight spots. So it was a real concern at first, and then later on I got to thinking, you know what, 11 inches is far more than enough. In fact, I'll bet any amount of money I could have dropped that thing down to 8 inches and it would have been fine. But I wanted to keep as much of the door as possible. I wanted to keep as much of the integrity as possible. Now, when you do install this type of chicken door, it's extremely important that you take the time to make sure it slides. Take as long as it takes to make sure that this thing slides up and down as it should. It needs to have a little bit of a play in there. I'd say at least 1/8 of an inch where it can wobble around in there, because when you're on uneven ground, this thing may want to shift on you. And I also recommend painting the plywood that it's attached to. If you don't paint that plywood, then you know it's going to weather, it's going to want to buckle, and you want those things straight. So you know, try to do the best you can to keep that thing weatherproof. With a major feature like that, I was pretty pleased with it. The only thing is, had I done exactly what Justin said, this build would have possibly gone a little bit easier at this point, because he recommends in this area it would have been a door on either side, which made easy access to put in your grit and your dust bath, which are on the inside, which are great design features as well. And with the benefit of hindsight, folks, we would have also taken a little more time and covered more of these corners, but it's not that big a deal. The water's not going to stay in there, and largely it's going to shed. So having built a number of these things, I realized that on the vertical, your vertical spots are less to concern yourself with. But remember, whenever you install this stuff, whenever you put this siding, make sure you pre-drill it. Now, that's not in all the videos, but all of them were in fact pre-drilled. Now, here we are getting to the part where you get into the more rickshaw feature. And instead of using bolt or screws or anything and wood glue, we elected to put 3/8 bolts in there, because I was a little concerned that we might want to readjust this thing, and this will allow us the ability to do that. And on this paddle bit here, it's obviously for the conduit that's going to go in. Now, Justin recommends that you use a fence post, and it's considerably bigger. This is 1-inch conduit, and I'm an electrician, so we got plenty of that laying around. So here we are doing the other side, and voila. Now, in the end of this thing, we've put 1/4-inch bolts, and that will be replaced with something that's a little more easy to manage. And there's Michelle doing her little deadlift, perfect pose, perfect form. And here it is, to the point where even William can manage it, and he's about 6'2", so there it is, folks. The thing moves perfectly at that point. And as I stated a moment ago, 1/4-inch bolts are going in there, and that's just temporary. I wouldn't recommend that, because it's just too easy it's too hard to manage. This is what makes it stick to the ground, folks. This is a feature that, next to the chicken door, I'm really proud of, in that it's really nothing more than a piece of 1-inch angle. Cut a point in the end of it, and then cut a 45 off of it. Total, it's about 2 inches long, and it will, when you just bear down on it, it'll stick to the ground like nothing else. So William reattaches the door after Michelle had already painted it. And in this particular case, bam, doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Not what the manufacturer recommended, but there we go. And here's the test drive. That is a well-designed machine there. Going over rough terrain, the boxes are intact, does everything Justin said it would. And of course they had to perform that scene out of Rocky to gather up all these birds, put them in there. But these birds are pretty well adjusted to us. And there's Filthy Jim. He's not offering, much of a fight there. And it's off to the races. Now keep in mind, folks, it's rained for a couple of days out here, and it's nasty, it's wet. That steep side you see off to the left is exactly where this thing will be situated. And just remember, if you're in a steep slope or something, we designed those little points on the front to be able to just put it down. If it feels like it's getting away from you, it really doesn't require much. Just put the thing down and it'll stop. So there it is at its final resting place. You don't get you can't really tell in this camera, but that thing's sitting somewhere on about a 20-degree slope. That's extreme. Our old chicken tractor, the ones you've seen in the previous videos, believe me when I tell you, that thing would have tipped over because this thing has such a wide wheelbase. Greater than a 6-foot wheelbase. That's not a concern. But here is the ultimate test. Will they come out? Is that 11-inch door going to work? Always the barred rocks. They're always the first ones out. Most adventurous and my favorite birds too. And the rest of them are saying, nah, we're digging this little jungle palace of love. We're not going anywhere right now. But they finally get out of there and they realize, okay, hey, we got a whole smorgasbord, a whole salad bar, and they're getting to it. Okay, so the build is done. It really didn't take much time. It didn't take a whole lot of effort. There were a lot of recycled things that we were able to put into it. And I'm particularly happy about the fact that we were able to put an automatic door in there. And believe me, folks, that means a lot to us, especially in the middle of summer when it's, let's say, 9 o'clock at night. The birds haven't gone in yet. You want to take a shower, but you're thinking, man, I got to go all the way back out there, depending on where they are, and go put these birds up. Well, that automatic chicken door prevents you from having to do that type of thing. And also, at the end of the day, it's reliable. It works well. If you have other things you want to get done, then going all the way out to where your chickens may be is one less thing you have to do. So that little bit of time savings, believe me, is worth a lot. So what did we learn out of this? Well, at the end of the day, this thing isn't quite as off terrain as we would have wanted it to be. And it has primarily to do with the fact of the mismanagement of the property of the people that were here prior to us. Now, they had, I don't even know how many cows out there in a space that was far too small. But what you can't see in the video is it's been raining a few days. What you don't see in this video is the fact that there are divots, there are potholes, ruts, you name it. And every time you hit one of those with these tires, it wants to throw you off balance a little bit. Now that combined with the extreme terrain and the very, very muddy ground. Now it would be a whole lot easier had it not been really, really muddy out there. But with the benefit of hindsight, we now know what changes we want to make in the future, and we'll bring you for a ride on that as well. Now, it's no hit on Justin Rhodes. This is, and I've said it before, it is an absolutely elegantly, beautifully designed chicken tractor. The only thing that makes it more all-terrain in this particular example is that you can take those spikes and you can jam them into the ground, and then you don't have to worry about the thing getting away from you. Or you don't have to worry about it so much because it is considerably lighter weight. You don't have to worry about it in the high winds because it is anchored to the ground without us having to do what you've seen me do in previous videos, which is putting tethering lines out in different areas. Well, we don't have to do that. Just stake it down and then walk away and you're ready to rock and roll. So what we plan to do in the future is, like I said, the profile, everything about this thing is spot on. The only thing we're going to do is change up where the wheel placement is and change a little thing in the front. But if you're not on extreme terrain as we are, if you're on terrain that is not completely full of mud, that you do have some grass on, it's probably going to work just fine for you. But in our particular case, we're just going to make modifications and we're going to take you along for the ride. In the future, we'll bring it back into the shop, we'll work on it, and we're gonna add features to this that make it more four-wheel drive available for the terrain that we have. Because folks, I got to be honest with you, this is extreme terrain. You can't see it so much in the videos, but it is extremely extreme. If this works for you, by all means do it. I'll give credit where credit's due. It's an elegantly designed chicken tractor. It works extremely well on ground that's not quite so pockmarked as we have here. So give it a shot. Work it out. Like I said, we're going to make changes in the future, and we'll take you for a ride on that. Till next time, this is Billy, the permaculture pimp daddy from Permapastures Farm. We'll see you.